J.
And welcome to the Average Joe Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Jay Real, and we got a in-house guest. What's up, buddy? Go ahead and tell me your name.
No problem. I'm Ryan, the cartoon guy. Second time I'm on the Average Joe Show. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. What we're doing, folks, is normally we wouldn't be coming to you until Tuesday, but there's so much going on in the world of sports this weekend. We just have to come and give you the fresh takes before the information gets too old and before we're able to bring it to you the way we need to. So the first thing we're going to talk about why we're doing this weekend special edition show. We're going to be covering a lot of football on this show today, and it has to deal with Adrian Peterson. The all-star, all-pro running back for the Minnesota Vikings has had some really horrific, tragic event happen in his family, and we want to bring it to you, the news fresh while it's fresh, and that's his 2-year-old son has just recently been murdered. And if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman that's being accused of doing this crime, horrific crime, his name is Joseph Robert Patterson. Now, we don't have all the information, Comic Guy, but we do know as of Wednesday or Thursday of last week, his son was in the hospital under
observation.
Well, what's it called when they're like
internal care or life support almost.
Right. He was in real bad condition. Then as of Friday, yesterday, the reports are just spewing out. They're coming out everywhere that the 2-year-old son of Adrian Peterson did pass away. This is a tragic event. It's horrific. But I do want to say this real quick. The reports were that it was his son living with him, which is Adrian Peterson Jr. It is not. It's another son that he had living with an ex-girlfriend in another state. So it's not his son living with him. So we want to make that clear that it's not the Adrian Jr. So anyway, what do you think about something like this? Isn't that pretty tragic?
There were a lot of people actually talking about this today at Walmart. A lot of people were coming in. They were talking about it. Some people even wearing a couple ribbons for the team and for him. What I got was that his ex-girlfriend's boyfriend beat the kid to death.
Well, that's the reports. That's reportedly what happened, and that's Joseph Robert Patterson, the boyfriend.
It's sad that something like that would happen, but it also kind of like pisses people off more than anything else is the idea that someone the size of a full-grown man, and this was a 2-year-old. You're talking barely out of diapers and a baby, and the way people were talking about like the kid like would barely recognize they smashed in the face and all kinds of stuff for people, different articles and stuff, but that's horrific. This guy deserves whatever he gets.
Right. Now again, you're innocent until proven guilty. He'll have his day in court, and then if he is found guilty, then yeah, this guy is in a world of hurt. Now, this is something, the reason why we're also doing this weekend special, Comic Guy, is because there's a lot going on, not in just with what's happening to Adrian Peterson, but the way I want to break this down is, it seems like when anything traumatic happens in the world of the NFL, it's like such a big deal, and it's so over-dramatized, when in all actuality, these are just human being people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying this tragedy isn't horrific because he's a football player and a star. What I'm saying is, how many other people have their kids murdered every day?
Probably a lot more than we think.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to downplay this. What I'm trying to get at, folks, is, yes, it's horrific. Yes, it's unbelievable that a 2-year-old boy would be beaten up by a grown man. What I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of people every day that this happens to.
Yeah. It seems like, but it's also the marketing, I think, really, with the NFL. It's the same thing how in news, when something small turns into big, it's the publicity. It seems like they're trying to market anything they can get their hands on right now. And it's sad that they would do this. This is the time of a man who should be left alone for his grieving.
Exactly. No, I agree.
But, I mean, like I said, there's already like rumors of T-shirts coming out for this at Walmart.
Oh, wow. Well, again, we just wanted to bring you this information that as of Friday, Adrian Peterson did come out on tweet and on the TV to confirm that this was a tragic event that happened in his family. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not going to stay on this subject, just like you said, Comic Guy. We need to let this guy mourn and be think of him and his family. So we're not going to stay on this anymore. We just want to say our prayers and everything go out to Adrian Peterson and his family. Now, what I am going to stay on is the subject of the NFL and how they over-dramatize situations that occur in the NFL. And one of the topics that has just been bugging me to death, Comic Guy, is all this stuff about head trauma and concussions in the NFL and blah, 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 whine, because poor NFL guys, and it's not even so much as it is the players, as it is the sports media and sports personnel, whether it be talk radio, sportscasters, or whatever, that just keep going on and on about feeling sorry for these athletes that choose to play football.
I think, well, what I've read is that now with the science, you're talking like maybe 30 years ago, if a guy got a concussion, they threw him right back in.
Exactly.
Now with what we know more about medical science, we know more about what happened, it's dangerous. It can kill them, it can cause permanent brain damage.
Sure.
And now with these older players who have humongous medical bills and didn't actually invest or save their money like they should have, they're coming out calling foul on the NFL.
Right.
But they aren't calling foul on how it used to be. They're calling foul on the new way. Now, there's a lot of science, they're being safer about a lot of stuff. Like you were saying once before on one of your shows, how 30 years ago, it was harder, it was brutaler, people got really hurt. I mean, it really was more literally a blood sport.
Right.
And now, with everyone crying foul and crying everything else, it's become more entertainment, but they don't want to lose like some of these good players.
Sure.
They are insured, they make them money. So all these older players coming out going, well, I feel, for me, yeah, they need to deserve a little bit because they should have realized back then that something could happen.
The players got to be protected from themselves, almost like.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to get to real quick, and we're going to stay focused. I'm not trying to not be sympathetic to these players that are injured, that need help, that need a lot of medical bills paid for, and they should get paid for. What I'm saying is, when sportscasters and these sports persons that are on talk radio continually come out and, oh, so-and-so committed suicide, so-and-so has a headache, so-and-so has, they lose their memory or forget where they're going. You know what? Cry me a river, folks. These guys were millionaires. They've been paid lots of money. They've lived high society lives for all of these years, and now at the backside they're having these issues. Again, not sympathetic for them. But what I'm saying is, pair that up or put that up against normal society. Sure. Okay, you could probably go into NFL and there might be a dozen suicides in the last 20 years. Sure. Do you think in the banking industry you probably couldn't go see those same numbers?
No, that's true too. I mean...
So is it any different? Don't come to me saying that, these NFL players committing suicide is such a big deal when the numbers are probably a lot less than other professions in the world.
Well, this is what I don't get. You don't see a lot of old boxers coming out of the woodwork crying foul. Exactly. They admit that, they got screwed up. I mean... You look at fighters like Muhammad Ali. You look at Mike Tyson. They have some serious brain damage, but you don't hear them coming out of the wood. They're like, yes, they warn people about it. They say don't do it if you're not willing to take the risk. But they don't cry foul.
They want those lives. They want the money. They want the fame.
They want the fame. So that's kind of the whole thing. And then with also what you're saying now, I think it's also to the fact with these older NFL players doing it. It's hurting the younger generation.
It is. So anyway, folks, all we're trying to say is, sportscasters, sports media out there, J-Reels and right here with the Comic Guy, we're going to say stop bitching about guys having head trauma and concussion syndromes and all this stuff. They made tons of money. Any one of us that had an offer of making millions of dollars to have some minor headaches and some other issues, I'm sure would do it in a heartbeat, because these guys are still doing it even after they know everything that can go on. So,
exactly. And it's the same way like in hockey. If you choose to be a bruiser and you go out there and be the guy who fights, man, there are some of them who got real hurt, but they don't come crying foul to the National Hockey League. Right. They're like, but some of them are like, but now it's more protection.
All right, so anyway, we're going to go ahead and get off that topic because I could stay on it all day talking about players crying and sports people crying about it.
Sure.
The big topic right now, also in the NFL, is the Giants are 0-6. I mean, they are winless this season. And all I have to say is it just goes to exactly what I've been saying all season long, that the NFL has set up defenses to be almost non-existent because these guys have scored 20-plus points. They're scoring big points, but they can't keep anyone from scoring more points. That's how they're losing. What do you think?
Well, that seems odd. I mean, doesn't the coaches ever try to come up with any new strategies anymore?
Well, the problem is, Comic Guy, when you make a defender have to stand there, let the receiver catch the ball, make a football move before they can tackle them, they've left them in the dust while that person's standing there waiting for them to catch the ball, when before, as soon as their hands hit the ball, boom, they were making some contact and lighting guys up. Now they got to go, this guy's running full speed to catch the ball. This guy got to stop, wait, let this guy make a move, and that move is passing them up, and now they got to react when someone's already going full speed. How hard can that be?
Why would they do that in the first place?
Because they're not allowed to hit the receivers anymore like they were.
Why?
Because they say it's the defenseless receiver.
That's stupid.
Exactly.
That's not.
This is not a typical sports guy, so you're hearing stuff sometimes for the first time.
Well, that just doesn't make any sense to me, because if you're playing a game that's meant to brutally assault your opponent, stop them from even getting the ball.
Exactly.
Hell, in high school you still do that.
Exactly. So, anyway, excuse me. So this is what we have to say about the Giants being 0-6. These guys are two-time Super Bowl champions, 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. How do you expect them to always continue to be good? Just like the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have 2 Super Bowls in the last handful of years. These guys sometimes are going to be through a rebuilding or a retooling state where they're not going to be good. But these guys are calling for they're calling for the coach to be fired. They're calling for Eli Manning, 2-time MVP Super Bowl, to be let go. That doesn't even make any sense.
Could it be that the NFL is trying to re-franchise it?
No, I think what it is, okay, breaking it down real simple. Giants fans, don't freak out that your team is 0-6. They've won you 2 Super Bowls. Be happy, appreciate it, and understand that you can't always win.
Hell, the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in 20 years.
Thank you.
In 20 years, and yet we built a brand Jerry World, and people are still willing to pay out of the asshole to get a seat.
Exactly. So, anyway, Giants fans, don't freak out. And Steeler fans, you know what? We've been good for so long. We've won 2 Super Bowls. Just be content with that. Enjoy that the team had some success in the last few years, because there are so many teams out there that haven't sniffed a Super Bowl ever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap up real quick because something funny came across the wire. ESPN, I believe, was the one that released it. It's a question, and they're asking, is Tony Romo as good as Troy Aikman? That's the question. What do you think?
Well, you have to look at their stats. I mean, what does Tony Romo have under it?
Well, this is the problem. I think that's what they're doing. They're looking at stats, which they are able to maybe be closer and comparable. But when you talk about a 3-time Super Bowl champion, don't even put Tony Romo in the same sentence. That's a slap in the face to Troy Aikman in my case.
That could be true. That's true. If one has been at the Super Bowl more than one, if they're, I think this is really what you were saying, is that the idea of they're trying to compare just stats. They're not comparing what they've done, but what the small things, not the big things.
Thank you. Comic book guy has it on the freaking nail on the head. Don't come to me with, oh, well, this person had 126% passer rating. This person's thrown for X amount of yards. Who's won a Super Bowl? That's who's won. Who's the winner? Right now, I have to tell you, Troy Aikman is a champion 3-time, and I think it was back-to-back-to-back, if I remember correctly. So as I was saying, I don't think you could really compare Tony Romo to the great Dallas Troy Aikman.
No, honestly, you really couldn't. If they were both playing at the same time during the same events, yeah. But these are like the same people who compare like an NBA All-Star from like 10, 20 years ago
it's hard to do
a
that.
new one. And the argument's like, well, tell me when he's got like 6
Right.
rings and everything else. Don't talk to me about how good he is right now, but
Exactly, and there's really no comparison. I mean, Tony Romo's Tony Romo. I don't even think the guy's won a playoff game, and if he has, it's 1 or 2 compared to Troy Aikman, who has 3 Super Bowl wins. So, anyway, folks, we just wanted to bring you some new information going on in the sports world this weekend. Main thing again, Adrian Peterson's tragedy. Again, prayers go out to him and the family. Leave it at that. And for right now, comic book guy, I'm going to say we're going to let these folks go and enjoy the rest of their weekend.
No problem. This has been Ryan Sineff, that cartoon guy. And
Jay Real here saying peace, much love. We'll see you on Tuesday's show. We will do it. Check it out.
Jay Real. Jay Real.